for Cardston-Taber-Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about education and the responsibilities we have as a province. We know children are our most valuable resource, not a resource in the traditional sense to exploit, but rather one we must help develop and nurture so each child can reach his or her full potential. Like an atom, the awesome power is there, but must be handled with care to create, not destroy. We all know this, and with the best of intentions, we try to facilitate it. Schools are built. Sometimes, unfortunately, they're not built in the right places based on prioritized need, but rather as political favors in areas where the current government has supporters that live and work. Albertans think it's long past time for this old-fashioned political patronage to stop. This government has confidence in its policies and its understanding of the needs of all Albertans, whether they voted right or left. Then it should demonstrate that by providing new or upgraded schools based solely on prioritized needs. It is something that my colleagues and I have been fighting for and will continue to do so to ensure fairness and equality for all Albertans. A lot of money could be saved, it seems to me, if teachers were consulted. These frontline workers know what's needed, why it's needed, where it's needed, and when it's needed. Why does anyone in the current government ever ask them what they require to properly educate their students, our children and grandchildren? If so, then you know they don't need more bosses or layers of management at the provincial level. If the government would reduce the number of rules and regulations that require more people to administer and oversee them, our teachers and students would be much better off. I talked with a grade 2 teacher recently. She's a fantastic leader in our community. She has a blind child in her class, and she only gets the help of a classroom assistant for 2 hours a day and none on Friday. Too much of the funding for education seems to go to administration, and too little trickles down to the classrooms where the children are and where their needs are not being fully met. Unfortunately, this trend continues unabated. This is not leadership from the province, but rather an abdication of responsibility, I submit. Why is it that when cuts are made, they're made in the classrooms? Some class sizes have grown to nearly unmanageable numbers. Teachers and assistants are cut in an attempt to meet budgets, but those cuts are in the wrong place. Let's stop this practice and have the courage to cut where it's needed. Let's trim at the top, not cut in the classrooms. Teachers work long hours, not just in their classrooms with students, but at home, studying, preparing lessons, marking and answering questions from concerned parents that may email or call them. In our attempt to help, are we in fact encouraging behaviors that are contrary to the best needs of our children, our families, and society? If our policies were working, wouldn't we have smaller class sizes? If our policies were working, wouldn't we have schools built or renovated where they are needed? I'd like to point out that you can't legislate self-esteem by protecting children or adults from experiencing the consequences of their choices. Passing a child who fails is an answer, but it's not the right answer. Not giving a deserved 0 to students because it makes them feel bad is teaching a lie. It's not preparing our children for real life. The provincial government isn't showing leadership and courage. Alberta's children deserve no less than the very best education, and our teachers are already among the best in the world. They deserve no less than the very best resources. We need to be continually mindful and respectful of parents' rights. At the end of the day, and truly all of the time, parents are the ones that should be making decisions about their students, about their children. They need and are entitled to a strong say in decisions that affect their children and affect the education of their children. This government speaks of partnerships. Well, parents are the senior partners. All 13, yes, Mr. Speaker, 13 of my children received quality education in the West Wind School District. They have each gone on to earn post-secondary degrees and are now raising families of their own and contributing to the quality of life in their communities. I can remember a time when one of my children got a 0 on an assignment. He came home upset and angry. But, Mr. Speaker, I can tell you he didn't do it again. And now that he's in the real world, he's thankful that he learned this lesson early on when the consequence was relatively cheap. We are strong supporters of public and homeschool education, and I'm glad to see the government recognizes this as well. Generally speaking, this is a good bill, and we're grateful that it's been presented. As mentioned, there are a couple of amendments that Wildrose will be putting forward, and I believe that they will improve the bill. Working in cooperation, I hope that the other members of this House will also support these amendments. Too often an idea is shot down simply because of who proposed it. I sure hope that will not be the case in this instance. In conclusion, I admit I'm not an expert on education, although I have been a teacher. But as parents of 13 children, my amazing wife Sheila and I know how important it is that parents take responsibility. Thank you.
How many grandchildren?
Yeah, really.
How many grandchildren?
I used to have hair before I started. Anyway, as I said, my amazing wife Sheila and I know how important it is that parents take responsibility for and have a say in their children's education. I would like to thank and congratulate the government for recognizing this. With a couple of amendments, I know this bill will be of great assistance to education in Alberta.